I have one more clip I wanted to get you to react to, Mark, of an interview that Nancy Pelosi just did, where the interviewer is pressing her on, Biden could be doing more to check the Netanyahu government that she admits is extreme, admits is, extraordinarily far right. Let's take a listen to a little bit of that.
But there are levers that Biden could use, which he hasn't used. There are levers which previous presidents have used when Israel has, in their view, crossed the line.
For example?
Go back to 1956. Eisenhower threatened sanctions if Israel didn't pull its forces out of Sinai. Reagan, held up delivery of fighter jets over Israel's action in Lebanon. George Bush Sr. blocked loan guarantees because of settlement building.
He did. I was there the day that well, you're going back to 56. I mean,
so these levers are there, aren't they?
Well, there's some, but the president has said something about the settlements. He has said something about the settlements.
But saying and blocking weapons supplies, for instance, are very different things, aren't they?
Well, it's not. It's a path. It's a path.
I mean, it's just pathetic.
What'd you say? It's a path?
It's a path.
What does that mean?
So first of all, she didn't even know about a bunch of those historical incidents.
Right.
Then she said, well, he said something about the settlers, so I guess that's good enough. But, I mean, first of all, just react to the specifics there. But also, it's no surprise to any of us that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have had basically uniform, unconditional support of Israel for years, that this is very bipartisan project. Like, that's not a surprise to any of us. But are you surprised by how far Biden has been willing to go for Israel, including potentially sacrificing his own reelection prospects here?
I remember when Barack Obama was running for president, and I had some doubt, even when that he could win, right, at some point. And somebody asked me, well, I said, well, white men are undefeated. They're 43-0 in this thing. Like, evidence is on their side. I think that's the Biden approach right now, is supporting Israel. No president has lost the presidency by supporting Israel, right? Now, they all support Israel, so I'm not saying you support Israel, you win either. But what I'm saying is that no one has opposed Israel in a substantive way and won. The closest person was Bernie, and that Bernie is no progressive warrior on this issue by any stretch. But even Bernie saying that, withholding funding to Israel until it meets basic human rights standards when he ran for president, that dog didn't hunt, for a lot of voters. And so there's a way that Biden, despite the fact that it looks ridiculous and history is changing in the same way that eventually white men weren't undefeated anymore, where Biden may find for the first time since Eisenhower, he may find himself in a situation where the tenor on Israel has changed enough that you can make a different move, and maybe even that you have to make a different move. Now, I'm not saying he has to be anti-Zionist to win the presidency. I don't think that wins an American imperial project. But at the very least, he has to have something to say about this genocide. He has to have some significant pushback. I mean, George H.W. Bush was far more heroic, honestly, probably than any president in the last 30 years on this matter. It's been 30 years. My math is off. Maybe it's been 4. Oh, my God, I'm old. Okay, so then, however long it's been, he's probably been among the better ones, sadly.
He froze settlements, just to your point. He froze. He conditioned loan guarantees on freezing settlements in the West Bank.
Right, which is honestly as good as anything anybody's done. I mean, Obama's profile in courage was abstaining.
Abstaining, right.
When he was already on his way out, too.
Right. And he still was like, nope, I'm still not, I'm not screwed up my legacy. No, I'm still abstaining. He did what the UK did yesterday, right? Yeah. We'll let the US veto, we'll abstain, but, So there's a very interesting set of moves happening in the Pelosi clip that speak to this. One, like they're all doing, it's another talking point like Bernie, where they keep talking about the extreme right-wing Netanyahu government. Right? That's the language that they use. And the reason why they use that language, one, is because it allows them to be opposing not Israel as such, but simply right-wing politics, which you can do as a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it just sounds like, oh, well, we're just opposing right-wing governments. They would never say we oppose Israel as an ethno-state.
Right.
No.
Yep. That's right.
we don't oppose this ethnicity. We just oppose this right wing. So when people are marching in Israel, when people are standing and blocking pathways in Tel Aviv, or they're in front of Netanyahu's house, or wherever, and they're challenging the government, and they're saying, "Oh, he's crossed the line this time, trying to basically undermine the Supreme Court. He's trying to undermine the kind of reasonableness standards that undergird our legal apparatus." They can say all of that because it's a legible language, right? To a liberal democratic empire. So I can sit over here in the United States and say, yeah, I hate when presidents go too far to the right. Oh, I hate when presidents try to take over the Supreme Court. We got Trump. But the problem is that language suggests that Pelosi or Biden or Bernie, if Israel were to just move over to the center, if Netanyahu would just be allied with the Labor Party, you know what I mean? Or God forbid, joint list, which will never happen. But like, if he were to just align himself with some center or left-wing parties in Israel for his coalition, we could live with him, as they have lived in since the 90s, right? It suggests that Israel is one Democratic or one liberal prime minister away from being our normal ally again.
Right.
And it ignores the fact that even when you have that liberal ally, Gaza is still under siege.
Yep.
It's still a cage. The West Bank is subjected to the longest military occupation in modern history. The state of Israel itself has numerous laws that diminishes the rights and the status and the equality of Palestinian citizens of Israel, and then people around the diaspora remain refugees. All of those things are not the problem of extreme right-wing governments. They are problems of a state that offers citizenship and live in freedom and justice depending upon whether or not you are Jewish or not. And that is the fundamental problem that our country doesn't want to challenge or critique. And that fundamental problem is why Pelosi will always be just a little afraid of saying, well, we don't, it's a path, is what she said. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Yeah. He basically offered the most humane, just, and reasonable tactic for getting equality, right? Which is to say, we're going to stop feeding this beast. We're going to stop giving you money and weapons and political cover if you keep oppressing people. And she goes, yeah, well, I mean, that's one way to do it. It's like, well, yeah, it is.
Well, to your point, she apparently was full of praise later in that interview for Israeli President Isaac Herzog, who was the one who famously said there are no uninvolved civilians in Gaza. These are the quote-unquote liberals that we're supposed to be hoping come to power. We know that since, the 70s, the settlements have expanded, whatever party the prime minister has come through. I mean, this is a whole of nation project because it is the natural end result of an ethno-state. That is the reality. So, I mean, to watch her have to squirm like that is extraordinary and very revealing because also, the only thing that she can point to is the sanctions Biden put on 4 settlers.
Right.
Which is also very, I mean, to your point about the way that it's Netanyahu that's the problem. It's these, few violent extremist settlers that are the problem, not the whole of the occupation and the whole of the fact that all of the settlements are illegal under international law.
Exactly. There are no good and bad settlers. Settlers, it's the settlement itself. It's the idea of settling. Settler colonialism, even. That's the problem. It's not that we got these really bad, that's like saying we're going to punish the really bad slave masters. The ones that are really abusive. We're going to
give a tax credit to the good ones.
Right.
Neoliberals for you people. That's the way they think.
That's why Bernie wouldn't call it a genocide also. I don't know if you saw that clip.
Yeah.
Bernie refused to call it a genocide because if you call it a genocide, what's entailed in that is, I think South Africa is correct at the International Court of Justice. Therefore, whatever conclusion they come to about how, it's Hague time, Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, it makes it so that now he doesn't have to sign on to the logical consequence of the end result of that case.
That's right.
Where you could say, I'm against it, it's a slaughter, it's bad, it's horrific, but hey, the language, I don't know if I'd call it a genocide.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. I'm very uncomfortable You know,
Yeah.
he does the whole bit, right, where he's uncomfortable. He makes it sound like he doesn't like to use labels. He's like, I'm not comfortable with labels.
Right.
I didn't ask him like, what are we? Like, we're dating, right? It's like they asked if it was a genocide. He said, I'm not comfortable with labels and things like that, you know, and I'm not comfortable with sanctions in certain ways. And they said, what about South Africa? He said, oh, that was clear because that was apartheid.
Yeah, he did say that, right.
Like,
whereas this is not apartheid, ethnic cleansing, genocide. You know, it's ugly and horrific, but it's not those things.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys, that's just a little taste of the interview. Do yourself a favor, click below on Substack, sign up, and you can get the full interview. Or you could also go to Substack and sign up for free and get the full audio version as a podcast. Remember, Crystal and I don't talk to any advertisers. We don't do any ad reads or anything like that. So you guys help support the show from the ground up. Thank you so much for listening, and we love you. Consider signing up and helping us out.